What's up guys, it's Endymion, and today to close off this series of videos is the final game in the series so far, Andromeda. So sit back and enjoy the facts and cool Easter eggs of BioWare's divisive game. This is the Mass Effect Andromeda Iceberg Explained. Let's begin. Did you know Andromeda's galaxy is almost twice as big as the Milky Way, as in real life? The galaxy of Andromeda is home to roughly 1 trillion stars, whereas the Milky Way, which is where the original trilogy takes place, is home to around 100 to 400 billion stars roughly, so there's plenty of room for expansions and sequels. Another nice and comforting real-life fact for you is that the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxies are actually going to collide one day. Andromeda's galaxy is moving towards ours at roughly 110 kilometers per second. So in about 4 billion years, our two galaxies will collide. Don't worry, we'll all be long dead by then, hopefully. Did you know some of the star clusters in Andromeda were named after real famous world explorers? Some include the Viking explorer Leif Erikson, Greek explorer Pytheas, and even Chinese explorer Zhang He. They all have systems within the game named after them too, which is cool. Did you know that Andromeda was planned as an anthology series? What does this mean? Basically, BioWare wanted to rid themselves of the trilogy idea and instead have each future Mass Effect game be a standalone story that, while having future plot development ideas, each game would be a sort of one-and-done scenario. It doesn't mean characters can't return, but Mass Effect Andromeda was likely going to be the one and only game where you play Ryder, which is interesting to know. Andromeda is the only game in the series to not have players commit to a singular class role from the start. While in the trilogy you were focused into being a soldier or adept, for example, in Andromeda you could try and use anything you wanted. And the different combinations would instead make unique class combos. Personally, I think Andromeda's class system idea is much better than the trilogy's, but that's just me. Ryder and the crew of the Tempest were designed to be younger on purpose to differ them from the more mature and seasoned group of the Normandy. BioWare also made sure to inject more humor into Andromeda and wanted the game in general to have a lighter tone, which, depending on what kind of player you are, is a good or bad thing. This one's kinda weird, but male Ryder has been made fun of for looking similar to series creator Casey Hudson, which BioWare assures fans it was not intentional and was completely by accident. Sure. The Andromeda Galaxy is named after the Greek mythological figure of the same name, who's a princess to King Cepheus and Queen Cassiopeia. Andromeda is chained to a rock in the mythology, but is saved by Perseus, who she ends up having 9 kids with. Jesus, that's a lot of babies. Also, one of the kids' names is Helios, which, funny enough, is the name of the cluster that the whole game of Andromeda takes place in. The more you know. The game is made on EA's own Frostbite engine, which BioWare has also used to make Dragon Age Inquisition and Anthem. Since Frostbite wasn't designed for third-person RPGs, BioWare had to remake all their assets for Andromeda. Thankfully, there's rumors and leaks that the next Mass Effect game will be going back to an Unreal Engine, which is really good news. The Chief of Security on the Nexus has connections to the trilogy. Chief Kandros is actually the cousin of Nyreen Kandros, the first female Turian in Mass Effect and temporary squad member in Mass Effect 3's Omega DLC. Nice. Alec Ryder knew of Shepard and their crew, and it goes deeper than this, as it turns out Alec had directly spoken with the likes of Liara, as well as Garrus' father during the creation of the Andromeda Initiative. I like callbacks like this. I still wish Alec was the main character personally. This next one is weird and it has to be fan service, but once you beat Andromeda's story, you get all sorts of emails back on the Tempest. One of these emails is titled A Great Story Pathfinder, and all the email says is, I'm going to write a book about this, and it's initialed by V. Tethris, who is very clearly Varric Tethris from the Dragon Age games. How Varric was able to send a message or know about Ryder's accomplishments in Andromeda is probably just pure fan service, because there's no conceivable way he could have known, right? I mean, he couldn't have known, could he? When you reach Kadara, you can actually see various ships docking and leaving the Kadara port. One of these is actually a transport shuttle, which very clearly sports the colors of the human Black Ops group Cerberus. So I guess Cerberus really is in Andromeda. I mean, they're not even trying to hide it, but it's interesting. Speaking of Cerberus, Cora Harper could be the daughter of Jack Harper, or who many know as the Elusive Man. Going even deeper into this, Cora talks about how her father was a genius and a man who was very respected by many. It also helps that the Elusive Man's love interest in the Mass Effect Evolution comic is named Eva Kore, and Cora as well as Eva share some physical similarities too. So yes, you can bang the Elusive Man's possible daughter in Andromeda. Now that's what I call sweet revenge. Speaking of daughters with crazy dads, there's a theory that Vetra Nix, the Turian smuggler who joins Ryder, could be the secret daughter of Saren, the first Mass Effect's villain. Vetra can be found saying that her father was a military figure and a harsh man who left the family when around Vetra's sister Sid was born. Not to mention that Vetra's last name is Nix, who's the goddess of the night and has ties to many dark mythological characters, which fans have speculated hints that Vetra's origins were that of the dark Turian Spectre Saren as well. Also, Nix is a Greek mythological character, which ties into the Andromeda theme nicely. As if that wasn't enough callbacks, you can also find Zaid Masani's son, Bane Masani. Bane can be found on Eos, and like his father before him, Bane is also a bounty hunter. Why Bane wasn't a team member over someone lame like Liam, I can only guess. This one is a nice touch, but did you know that Avidus Rix, the Turian Pathfinder, was the protege of Saren and even to this day believes that Saren's actions were justified? Well, that's a comforting thought, that the guy who almost ended the galaxy has a son-like figure in charge of an entire colony who saw nothing wrong with what he did. That's totally not a red flag at all. Andromeda was originally going to be called Mass Effect Beyond, but it was changed once the new Star Trek movie was announced and it was called Star Trek Beyond. Which, I mean, okay, yeah, I get why they did it. Andromeda is a nicer name too, in my opinion. Also, fun fact, Anthem was originally supposed to be called Beyond as well, but they changed that one too. Andromeda has references like in-game models to the real-world company SpaceX, which is owned by Tesla's own Elon Musk. What's even crazier and kind of bizarre is that Andromeda confirms that SpaceX was pivotal to the exploration of deep space within the world of Mass Effect. So I guess in a way, Elon Musk was integral to the eventual rise and defeat of the Reapers and the Initiative? Alright then. Although Andromeda was criticized by many, it was actually a resounding success financially. In fact, Mass Effect Andromeda sold around 5 million plus units since launch, meaning Andromeda sold more at launch than the original Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic, and Dragon Age Origins. The sales were on par with Mass Effect 2, however, Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect 3 are still BioWare's highest selling games at 6 million and 7 million respectively. Did you know that Andromeda wasn't developed internally by the same team as the trilogy? In fact, Andromeda was developed by BioWare Montreal, which composed of many newcomer developers. It kind of shows, if I'm being honest, but for a first major game release, I think they got more right than they did wrong. Andromeda originally was going to be a procedurally generated game similar to No Man's Sky, which would allow players to play and discover new planets and colonies on a near infinite level. Of course, this became far too insane to actually implement due to a lack of resources and time, but the idea seems novel. However, I'm glad they didn't do this. Mass Effect Andromeda is, so far anyway, the lowest rated game in the series, sitting at 76 on Metacritic at its highest. This, of course, pales into comparison to, say, Mass Effect 2's Metacritic, which sits at 96. The game originally was going to have many new alien races and factions, but due to time, resources and such, this was cut down to just the Angara and the Ket. Concept art can be found on various concept artist websites detailing weird, unnamed aliens that were designed during the game's development, however. And finally, here's a fact about Andromeda and, well, me. I played Andromeda on launch and I genuinely had a good time with it. I found a lot of its lore compelling and I thought the combat was pretty solid and flexible. But like many, I do consider Andromeda to be the weakest in the series. I still think the game is good, it's just that the trilogy is so beloved that Andromeda was losing an uphill battle no matter what, unfortunately. That being said, I still think Andromeda is a good game and should be played by any fans of the series. And since Andromeda is teased as being a part of the series' future in some capacity, it's good to know that BioWare will not be abandoning this game's world and story. Andromeda is still, at its core, a fun game with good ideas, and I hope this isn't the last time we hear of the crew of the Tempest. Well guys, that's the video on the Mass Effect Andromeda Iceberg Explained. Let me know any facts or cool Easter eggs you know about Andromeda in the comments. And thank you all for the support on the previous trilogy of Iceberg Explained videos as well. I will most likely be doing Dragon Age and possibly even The Witcher in the future in this style, so please look forward to it. Like, share, and subscribe to give my life meaning, and thank you to my patrons for their support. If you'd like to help the channel, the links are in the description. I'm Endymion, and thanks for watching everyone. I'll see you in the next one.